welcome back to Super Sentai Reviews, Episode 19. Yes, I do know it's been a year since I last did an episode for this one. And, well, I decided to continue with J.A.K.Q. This time, instead of doing 10 episodes, I'm only doing 5. Yes, J.A.K.Q. By far, out of all the Super Sentai seasons, the shortest one at 35 episodes. This one discussing episodes 11 to 15. Episode 11 is basically a very interesting one. Is that, well, Spade Ace, he gets some character development this episode. Oh yeah, and what's the plot of this one? Okay, it's the operation is Operation Money. So, we have the crime boss basically who acts as a subordinate to the monster this one. I think he's a pyramid, I think he is. I believe so. Actually, I think it's called Devil Machine, I think his name is. What is the name of that particular monster? His name is Devil Gang. Yes, Devil Gang. Yes, Devil Gang. So, okay. So, they're using this sort of evaporating stuff to basically kill people in order to rob them of money. Yes, first killing security guards and then killing 2 jewelers for money and jewels. Okay. And it turns out that Spade Ace does know who made the stuff. An old friend of his named Watahumia. And as far as I can tell, I don't think he actually appears again after this. I don't know because I haven't finished watching it yet. Yeah, and of course, what first ends up missing and his study been canceled. That's where it was at the start of it, and then it's revealed that, well, it turns out he was forced. He quit, but he was forced to quit. Well, because his boss really apparently said, oh yeah, his boss said, oh yeah, this stuff is too dangerous. So, forced the man to quit. And of course, he wanted to do stuff on his own. Eventually, it's found out, though, they expect at first he's the one who gave the stuff to Crime. And it turns out, nope, it wasn't him at all. It was his boss. I'm like, so, yeah, this is actually one of like 2 or 3 times where the person who's the crime boss, not the main one, the basically crime boss, where he basically is employing a particular character. Usually a one-shot one. I believe this is one of 2 they actually did for this one. The other one was basically a fashion mogul who killed another fashion designer because he thought, oh yeah, he was acting like his mentor of his. Yeah, he basically claimed, oh yeah, it was suicide. He's not a cop, so he cannot claim suicide. Yeah, it turns out it was a locker room murder, and it turns out it was done by the Metal Fist guy for that one. That was actually in episode 14. Yes, and that involved lots of fashion. Mostly for J.A.K.Q for that one, they're investigating a smuggling ring over smuggling diamond. They eventually do. With that one, basically, Clover King gets captured, and of course, he gets freed by J.A.K.Q, and then destroyed with their little combo combination. This one, of course, well, as in the case of Devil Gang, he's basically a machine gunner. Yes, in the case of Crime Boss, this one, like, somewhat like, I would say of the 5 of them, at least 3 of whom are actually executed by Boss Iron Claw. This one is one of 2 not executed by him. This one is killed by Devil Gang because he dared to flee. Yes, when J.A.K.Q showed up. So, of course, later on, then, of course, the guy is later defeated, and of course, well, Space, his friends able to resume his research, no problem. Then I'm like, okay, if his boss basically was responsible for it, and he was director of the Institute, like, did he get his job back, and who's financing it? That's a good question I'd like to ask. But it's not brought it again because the guy disappears after that. Yep. Next one is also one to know and focus on Spade Ace. Where, okay, so the plot of this one, they really want to get their hands on this golden mask for some reason. And apparently crime wants it for some reason. It's not thoroughly explained. And, like, in the case of the previous one, the environmental one was just an excuse to get all the funds they need because, well, they're a crime organization. They need money. This one, there's really no reason. I think they want it simply because it's made of gold. And there's like 3 masks made. And here's the thing. 2 of them are bogus ones. And the third one is the rare one. Of course, they find out that Spade Ace has got the rare one due to the fact they actually planted a bug on the minister who actually was in charge of the thing. They planted a bug in his shoe. I'm like, wow, that's old Spy. That is basically classics. I would say that's basically a takeoff James Bond. Yes, in the film Goldfinger, he did that. He actually planted a bug on himself at first. Then later on, he planted the tracer bug on, well, another guy. So yeah, it's a classic spy movie. I'm surprised. I'm not all that surprised that the crime got their hands on this particular type of technology. Probably because they're a crime organization. I'm sure it's pretty easy to get their hands on. So then of course, Spade Ace is captured. And then he escapes, then he falls off a bridge, losing his memory. Yes, he lost his memory. And it turns out, though, he does remember his time at Jack, but he does not remember where the actual mask is buried. Yeah, they easily figure this out, and the way they trigger his memory back in is to recreate something from the pilot episode of the series, where Ace saved Karen, who's the Heart Queen. Yep. And then they find out where it is, and it's actually... I think it's here, buried in these rocks. And it turns out, though, this is not the real one. Nope, it really isn't. And they found out that this guy they've been talking to is actually a fake one that Joker found the real one in the basement. And then they destroy this. This guy himself is actually executed by the crime boss by firing his claw at him and then dropping down like an old cartoon film, like, oh, trapdoor, bye-bye, don't see you again. Yes, the thing about this series is that when it had the air of the crime bosses, it appears as though after the first couple, like after they appear for like 2 episodes where they get killed off, these guys, if they fail their mission, they get automatically executed. Yep. Okay, so the fashion one that was actually episode 13. 14 is basically about crime rate. It's about a race. Yes, a race. And basically this guy called Bourne is killed because of his car. And you're probably thinking, why is he killed over his car? He drives a Porsche. What they describe as a 930 Porsche that contains this secret map, this big, humongous amount of treasure. A treasure that's worth like 500,000 yen. Like, that's a lot of money. Actually, it's more like 1 billion yen. Like, I'm like, wow, the guy had that much money. Because apparently they mentioned that Bourne's ancestors found this stuff years ago and basically kept it all hidden. Yes, and why do crime want his gold? Because they're a crime organization, just like for the first one. They want that money. And then, of course, they send out Now, it was Middle Fist for episode 13. This one is actually Devil Wolf. This one's been interesting because basically they had to steal some cars, get in this race, and then of course the guy is defeated. The wolf itself is quite interesting of an actual, one of the monsters. We actually goes dark briefly, but looking up Clover King is actually able to dispel that, and then of course the guy is destroyed. In the last one, it's all about a vampire. Yes. Now, what basically this guy was doing, he's kidnapping random women and taking their blood. Why? Because they want to make artificial blood. What was the purpose of the artificial blood? I have no idea. They don't really explain it at all. And by the way, first time in this series where the crime boss is not some guy. Oh, by the way, the wolf one, he's not executed. He just basically falls off some pipes and apparently killed off. By the way, his code, his name is 008, is like 008. I'm like, really? Is that a reference to James Bond? I don't know. The guy only appears for one episode, and he's the only one he's the only one aside from the first one in these episodes where he's not executed by Boss Iron Claw. He just falls off some pillars and apparently killed. Now, in the case of this one, the vampire is working for this female crime boss because they want to kidnap some women for making. Apparently, they use blood to make people beautiful. I'm like, how the heck is that possible? So, apparently, Karen herself has got a fear of vampires for some reason. Something that's been never brought up before. And then later on, basically, one of the victims, basically, who's with her, apparently her little brother, despite the fact he's looking pointing out these two could be like mother and son. Nope, it's brother and sister. If this episode was adapted for, let's say, for Power Rangers, they would basically make these two like mother and son instead of basically making these two brother and sister, because the way these two look, like the little kid could easily pass as her son, not as a little brother. So Karen informs her Pinky promises to get back to her, and then she goes undercover at this beauty salon. I'm thinking, a beauty salon, you mean some place you can actually go in town, get your face made up, and get your hair done, stuff like that. That's a beauty salon I think of. This, it's like, okay, it's like a retreat to make yourself beautiful over the course of 3 days. I'm like, who be into that? I wouldn't. Well, I'm not a woman, so I have no comment on that matter. But so they figure out that Karen is actually, well, not. And here's the thing: apparently the X-ray all the women here apparently. Oh yeah, there's one that has too much metal, and it's Karen. And then of course they try to hypnotize to become a crime robot. But that doesn't work. She breaks out, and then of course J.A.K.Q shows up, and of course she transforms, and then she's able to beat the monster for this one, which is the vampire. Yes, it's one of those rare times, basically these five basic where the actual one look like an actual. It's referred to as a mummy vampire. Yes, I'm not kidding about that mummy vampire. You know what's also quite weird about these creatures? That a lot of them basically are dressed in very nice looking suits. Like Devil Wolf is in a nice suit. They apparently got capes. I'm like, oh, that's interesting. Yeah, the Devil Mummy, otherwise known as Devil Vampire. Yeah, he's one of the ones basically in these fancy suits here. Yeah. Now, like all the monsters in this particular series, they're basically a lot of one-shot monsters. Yes, a lot of rope, a lot of... Yeah, but not much else to say with these episodes. They're actually not that bad. I would say probably the weakest one of these five is probably the one with the vampire. The mummy vampires, they've heard them as in the episode. Now, the weakness of this one is the reasoning. Like, okay, artificial blood. Why do we need artificial blood? They don't really explain that at all. I mean, the only thing cool about this one is the monster and the Karen plot thread in this one. Yes, in the case of two of these basically, Spade Ace is the focus. The first two, he's the focus of them. But what about, let's say, 13, 14, 15 is basically focused on, of course, well, Karen. 13 is focused on Spade King. And in the case, Clover King. In the case of 14, it's a focus on... Well, it's focus on everybody. Basically trying to get this one thing. Yep. But not much else to say about these episodes. They're not bad per se. Yes. Though it's kind of weird. Now, the thing with these characters is that... Here's something interesting. That when they execute the crime boss, the fashion one... Yeah, this one basically is technically executed by Boss Iron Claw, but he does it from a different location. Yeah, he basically like, okay, so this crime boss, the fashion mogul, who's also a smuggler, so he executes him not by putting his claw through his throat and dropping into a trap door. Oh no, they have him get stabbed to death by his own mannequins. I'm like, okay, that's interesting. They get away with some way. Yeah. The thing with also I should point out though is that all of these crime bosses are all human. They're not some aliens or monsters. They're just regular humans. Yeah, but the series gets weirder once you get to episode 23 from what I read. Don't worry, we'll be discussing it in the future. Now, will I be doing another episode tomorrow? Possibly. But it will probably depend upon, let's say, of how much I get done for it. Now, you might be asking, what about Fairy Tail? You keep saying you're going to do. I might hold off on that for a little while because I just got back into watching Super Sentai first time in a year. When I got back to it last year, it was the first time in 3 years I got back into Super Sentai. So basically, what I'm going to do with this is that I'm just going to stick with this for a while until I finish this one because I started this one already. So I figured though, started it, should finish it. That's basically what I'm going to do. Now, since I finished episode 15, there's exactly 20 more episodes left to go. So, but here's something interesting though about this. Okay, so next one I'll basically do is like every 5 episodes definitely, but I'm gonna do basically episode the one after next one quite interestingly. What I'm gonna do is a two-parter. The reason why, because out of the 22 we have a change in the series. And that's mainly the reason why I'm going to do that. It's not because I have to take a break because, oh, I'm going to go out for dinner, I had to use the bathroom. I'm doing that on purpose because change direction. So I can have a pretty good even amount. So I would probably say I can get about 1, 2, 3. Let's see, 3. I'd say about 4 more videos altogether I can get out of this one. Well, 5 to include talking about the crossover with Go Ranger. That will be interesting to talk about when I get to that one, okay? But you see you on the next video, probably tomorrow, which we'll be discussing hopefully this. How a realist hero but really get him. The case of Atlantis and Case Closed is coming tomorrow, okay? Next video. Bye.